Hello and welcome to Universally Speaking. And today we are going to have a deep dive. We're going to go into the world of movies and we're going to have a deep dive into a movie that I saw for the first time literally yesterday. Um, it's going to be a good one.
Indeed, it is. And yeah, this movie was released in 1997. It was winner of Best Screenplay, and that film is Good Will Hunting. It also saw Robin Williams win Best Supporting Actor, deservedly so as well. And yeah, it was written by Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. It also saw them both star in the movie. Also stars obviously Robin Williams and Casey Affleck, to name a few. It was directed by Gus Van Sant, who directed Milk, starring Sean Penn, which is again a revered and loved movie. He's also done many music videos for David Bowie, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like Under the Bridge, even Elton John, plus many more. But today we want to talk about Good Will Hunting, and this film follows Will Hunting, a janitor who is incredible at mathematics, but struggles with direction and finding his footing in life, and needs help from a psychologist who unlocks the man he wants to be. And yeah, so today that is the movie that we're going to be talking about.
How'd you like them apples? That's all I have to say about that. Oh,
I'm
come
done.
on, I had to get it in.
I'm done.
I
I'm
had
done.
to get it in. You can't do Good Will Hunting without dropping in that
Do
line.
you like apples? No. Oh, okay. Cut.
No, I'm all right with it. So, like I said, I saw this film for the first time yesterday. I kind of feel really bad that it's taken me this long. I've got through 35 years of life before I watched this movie because it really is that good. Obviously, just some context for people who might be listening to this for the first time or kind of early days. I don't watch movies. I don't do movies. Well, traditionally, I didn't do movies. I'm starting to come round. I'm kind of softening up those hard edges I've had when it comes to movies, and I am giving them a go. And I'm coming into them with a fresh pair of eyes. That I'm not. I'm a bit wet behind the ears, as it were, when it comes to watching movies. And I'm going to take some convincing. Yeah, I'm still not convinced it's a great form of entertainment. As far as media entertainment goes, I still think they're a bit naff. I still would rather watch a really juicy 6-part drama on the BBC than I would watch a movie. And I'll
I'm
be right
glad you're
now,
telling me all this now. I know I need to do a podcast with somebody else.
but I'm giving them a go, and I'm coming round. So, Good Will Hunting. I actually really love this movie. For me, this was Robin Williams. I love Robin Williams, right? I think he's incredible, and he was really really good in this. That's the first thing I want to cover off. With Robin Williams' performance, absolutely fantastic. And it's for me, it's a feel good movie. I didn't expect I was going to say that going in, especially when you see some of the scenes in it and how it's kind of put together. I didn't think I'd be saying that it was a feel good movie. But I remember when the credits rolled at the end, I kind of sat there with a smile on my face. I was quite warm and fuzzy inside, thinking about the ending, and I was really really chuffed with the fact that he was going to get the girl. I know it's a little bit corny and a bit of a Hollywood trope there, but I felt it was actually well in place with this movie. Um, I thought the acting performances across the board were absolutely fantastic. You know, Matt Damon, not someone I have a lot of experience with. Obviously, I know him. He's one of the names, isn't he?
Yep.
Is it Jason Bourne? Is that Matt Damon, by the
I
way?
mean, that's an insane pull from you, but yes, he is Jason Bourne.
Yeah, Jason Bourne. So never watched any of the movies, by the way, but I think I've seen him on the advert once.
Great films, by the way. I mean, if
Right.
there's anyone out there that hasn't watched them that's listening to this and they like James Bond and they want a more gritty take,
Mhm.
they are definitely great films. Very layered, really, really cool. But anyway, we're not talking about Jason Bourne. But
Yeah, I thought he was really good in this. by the way, I was getting mad Leo DiCaprio vibes from him. By the way, is that a thing? You know, with the hair, the Titanic kind of blonde hair, and
Again, this is something I know me and you spoke about before, not on the podcast. Is big actors kind of today and in before and stuff. They definitely all seem to fit a certain mold of obviously what the time is and obviously what's popular. So yeah, I would say that. I mean, there's a film they did together called The Departed, and you can definitely see similarities even their acting methods and things. So yeah, no, I think that's a fair comparison to make.
yeah, definitely. So I got that vibe, and and the other thing is, once again, I mean, this could actually be him, and in which case I'm kind of going to pick him up for something that he hasn't actually done. But the thing that stood out is I loved his accent in this movie. Is he from Boston? Is that where oh, okay. So he's not actually putting that on, because that was great. I really enjoyed that.
Yes. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon are obviously best friends in real life. They've been best friends since they were at school. And obviously Casey Affleck, who's also in the movie that we'll talk about at some point, I'm sure, is obviously Ben Affleck's brother. They are all from Boston. And the part where they're playing baseball and they're talking in the movie is somewhere they used to hang out regularly as kids.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, that's quite a nice kind of IRL reference, isn't it, in the movie? I like that. Yeah, so that I enjoyed that. Yeah, so obviously the story goes, doesn't it? He's this janitor. He's a bit of a tearaway, isn't he? He's a bit of a rogue. I would say is probably fair. Who's got a particular penchant for math. Bit of a boy genius. And actually, do you know what I loved about this movie? I let me just get this in here before I can really get into it. Is obviously he goes around and he's sweeping the floor or whatever he's doing. He's got his mop or his broom. I don't know what he's got. And he sees this math question that the professor, played by Stellan Skarsgård, has put on the board.
Perfectly said.
Thank you. He's put this on the board, I think, for his class, hasn't he? And said if anyone this semester can work this out, they're going to get a piece in the math magazine.
Yeah,
I guess, and that's the thing.
Yeah, I remembered.
Yeah. And obviously Matt Damon is going along and he sees this equation on the board, and he answers it. And when I was a kid growing up, I used to watch this cartoon called Recess. I was obsessed. I think I watched every episode, literally every episode.
I just want to say, me also. And the dude with the red cap was great. The teacher was great. Oh, it was the tall fella, blonde hair. I said I love it. I can't remember any of the names, but
no, I know. I'm a little bit disappointed with your lack of names there.
I'm sorry, but listen. You said when you were a kid. When I was a kid, I was even younger. Great show.
Yeah, great, exactly. And obviously they had a janitor called Hank, and there was an episode that at the time I didn't even know was a reference to Good Will Hunting, where they've put a really hard math equation on the board and Hank's coming where he's cleaning the classroom, he solved it, and they then laid one as a trap to kind of work out who the genius in the school was, and they found out it was Hank, who is this janitor who's really good at math. So that was actually quite cool to get a reference. I finally know where that's come from now.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things where you're watching a good film and you know that it's getting referenced in other forms of media. Like there is a lot of references in Family Guy to this movie where they kind of take the mick at Matt Damon a little bit. They even do it in Team America. They take the mick at Matt Damon. But even in there's just loads of things they do Good Will Hunting. And even in Step Brothers, I don't know if you've ever seen that comedy film with Will. I mean, you obviously don't know Will Ferrell, but a great comedy film with him and John C. Reilly. And there's a part in that where he's talking to a therapist and he pretends to be Matt Damon, where he says, he just sees equations on the board and he just does them in his head automatically. But yeah, so it definitely has had like this sort of cultural hold on people, and it is really cool when you can, like you said, now you can draw a comparison to something. That's always nice.
Yeah, it was, and it was nice, and obviously, I say one of my favourite sayings in life is, how would you like them apples? So to actually know where that's coming from, which is quite good. I did enjoy that.
Stop that.
I'm sorry. So that's the premise of the film. Now, obviously, like I said, he's a bit of a rogue. You know, he gets into some scrap. You know, with some with the high school bully or something, and ends up. I actually feel like we've actually missed the important bit where he actually meets the you know, his bird who's going to be in the, you know, he's going to want to be with later on.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take it step by step, or you can just give your raw.
Yeah, not really. I don't want to talk about meeting the bird because it was a bit naff.
I mean, I'm going to talk about it.
Yeah, that's fine. You can talk about it. So, yeah, so he then gets into a scrap, you know, with the schoolyard bully, and then ends up in the nick. And then, as a condition for him to get out, you know, he has to go and undertake therapy, as well as I'll do math with his lecturer. And that's when obviously Robin Williams comes in, and that's for me. Obviously, look, my issue with films has always been is that I find that the first part of any movie, I just want to go to sleep and just not ever watch it again, because I just feel like films take too long to get to where they're going. And, you know, I know. Look, I get we have to set placeholders. I guess I know we have to set the scene and set the story and get everything going off emotion, and I get that. But I really do find that I lose interest during that particular phase. But this film wasn't too bad. I didn't think it lasted too long. But obviously, I wanted to get down to brass tacks. And obviously, when Robin Williams comes in and we start doing the therapy sessions, then this film really kicks it up a gear.
Yeah.
And you know, this film for me offered so many iconic scenes. There's that wonderful scene with because the first therapy scene is quite you know, it's quite a hard hitting affair actually, that first therapy scene. Obviously Matt Damon, he plays a condescending role very, very well.
Yeah,
you know,
it's one of my favorite scenes. Maybe definitely my second favorite scene is that scene, because I just love the rawness of it, how they haven't bonded yet, and it feels so real.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, carry on.
And Matt Damon, you know, he you know, the character of Will Hunting, he knows he's so much more clever than everybody else. You know, he knows that when it comes to a straight argument, you know, or a straight battle of wits, and kind of book smarts, you know, he's going to have most people, you know, bang to rights. And yeah, that scene is quite an uncomfortable watch in places. You know, he obviously clearly strikes a nerve, mentioning Robin Williams' wife. And you know, the whole reverence with the painting and all that. Yeah, that was quite a raw thing. And obviously, you know, so we've had that, but then the scene that stands out, the one that I really want to kind of go into first, is that wonderful scene sat on the park bench, looking out on the lake. It's the first time that you feel like probably feel like anyone's ever gotten through.
Is that your favorite scene?
I don't know if it's probably my.
It's my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's going to be up there. Probably, it's certainly be in the top three. Just a beautifully crafted scene, and it's just got so much oomph to it. Robin Williams plays the part wonderfully here of that therapist who kind of shows that, you know, you might be able to outsmart people when it comes to the books, but you know that you can't put a price on life. You know, on the miles that you've done. You know, it kind of shows you that you have to have lived a bit, you know, to feel these experiences. You had to have done the hard yards, you know, to actually be able to fully comprehend and appreciate and understand these things. And I feel like the character of Will Hunting did a bit of growing up in that scene. And I know it didn't. I know it doesn't quite. You know, it obviously these things it has to be chipped away at. But I feel like that was the first kind of, you know, bit of inroads made.
100%. His character development feels earned, doesn't it? Because once you get to the end goal of the movie, your mind goes back to scenes that have got you to that end product, and that is definitely, you know, the first big standout of why the character has got to where he is by the end of the runtime.
Yeah, it's a truly wonderful scene. So well done. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful scene. Really did love that. So that definitely stands out. And then as we kind of move throughout the film, you know, we can almost see bits of that kind of that armor, that wall that he's put up is starting to ever so slightly chip away. But you know, just as soon as anything gets, you know, what could be perceived as a little bit scary, letting someone in, whoosh, the wall comes up. You know, he seems, by all accounts. I mean, I don't know about you. This might be a bit of a hot take. For me, as much as I like him and his girlfriend in the movie, I actually didn't feel there was. For me, I didn't think there was a lot of chemistry between the two actors. By the way,
You know, I have to say it's very interesting you say that. I agree, but I feel like that pays more. That for me heightens the enjoyment I get out of the movie because he is not allowing the audience and himself to feel that there's a connection there because he's throwing the walls up, he's pushing her away. And what I like to think in my head, because they leave it at such an open ending, is that when he goes to see About a Girl, that's when the connection really starts to seep through. That's when it's a typical, because it's such a Hollywood ending. That's when, if there was to be a Good Will Hunting 2, it would be a rom-com. It would be a romantic movie. Do you know what I mean? That's when that stuff seeps through. And that's why it is on such a lovely ending. The fact that you don't feel that there's a connection there, just... But what I would say, and I don't know if you agree with this, is obviously the way that they have written Minnie Driver's character is she is desperate for that.
Yeah.
She's always trying to get that. So for me, that I agree with you 100%. However, I just think that I enjoy that more. I think if there was such a strong connection there, and they were all lovey-dovey and they were loved up, that might just lessen the fact that he is so walls up, because and he's, you know, when Robin Williams is trying to say you can't crave perfection, the imperfections is the good stuff, then that scene wouldn't hold such weight to the character of Will Hunting, because then the next scene when he's all loved up is kind of contradicting itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And like you say, if the lack of what you felt was tangible chemistry oozing through the screen, if that was by design, then you know that's a fantastic piece of directing. Then, in which case, from what's his name, the director?
Oh, Gus Van Sant, or even the writing. Obviously, if that's what they've written in there from Ben
Well,
Affleck and
yeah.
Matt Damon. So yeah, no, I agree. I think, listen, even if that isn't, then that's just the way. That could just be a happy accident for me watching it, my personal opinion. But I think it just works for his character. I think sometimes, you look the other way, like a movie I think of, like The Batman by Matt Reeves with Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. Batman is such a closed-off, depressed character that is just, completely shut off the world and only comes out at night to deal with the bad. Is he then gets a little bit of romance and love in his life in Catwoman, and then he's opening himself up. So it's kind of the reverse. Whereas with this, he is a very emotional character. He wants to tell you how much of an idiot you are to make himself feel better, and then will instantly shut off his love interest, who he obviously cares about. So I just think that really just, it could be a happy accident, or it could be, like you said, a piece of genius writing or directing. Is, for me, it really heightens the story and gets me more invested and more believable, because as me and you have said before, this film feels so real, and that really just helps the film feel so natural. Is, I think that specific thing that they did with his character with her has really helped the story.
And I'm glad we've said the word real, because I'm kind of focusing on that for a minute. One of the things this movie did that I really liked is there was a real feeling to it. Now, I'm not someone who necessarily likes swearing for swearing's sake. I don't necessarily. I'm not offended or bothered by it, but I don't feel like you need to F and Jeff and stick it.
No, I completely get what you mean. There's a lot of Danny Dyer movies, or especially British movies with the like adulthood, where they have like these sort of drug dealers and roadmen. Now, I get that there is a market for that. That's always something I've struggled with, because I don't find any relatability in that. And they just effing and jeffing constantly, and it is unnecessary, and it almost feels like they're trying to make you laugh. I've never understood that premise, so I do totally get what you mean by that.
Yeah, but with this film, there's definitely a realness and a rawness. Obviously, when you would expect to see a therapist, and a scene with a therapist in a movie, and I mean, maybe that's because I've not seen as many as you, I tend to find that they're very clean scenes. The therapist is very much, top button done up, tie, white jacket, and they're very, very clinical and very hospitally, and there's no kind of, it's almost a bit robotic.
I'm so glad you're saying this.
Yeah,
Honestly, I've got such a big smile. I'm so glad you're saying this, and it's what you're saying here for someone that even hasn't watched many movies. I'm so glad that you've picked up on this because it is so true. Is I even when you said this, I straight away think of a film by your mate M Night. There's a film called Glass, and they have this psychiatrist and person that's trying to help these people in the movie. And the whole room is clean. It's one color. It's clean. She is perfect, not in terms of appearance, but how she presents herself. But the thing is because in these movies that we usually see this type of thing from when someone's going to these, it's because they are striving to be normal. They're striving to be perfect. They're striving to be accepted, and they're trying, and that the image that is being put back at them and the surroundings they're in is almost what the character is striving to be. And that's when you know you're watching a movie, because they are unnecessary goals and standards. What this does so well, and why it's so real, is because he's not clean, he's not tidy, he is real. The environment he's in is so real, and it feels like it's a place that's been lived in and had so much stuff happen in it. And he, like he says, it's all about the imperfections and the good stuff. And I think that that's what makes this film stand above the rest, is and like we've said, is why it feels so real, and it really leans into this. So I'm really glad you touched on that.
Yeah, and it is, and it adds to the flavor of it all, doesn't it? And it's like you say, the odd swear does get dropped into their therapy sessions, but it's fine. It doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel forced. It just feels grown up. It feels adult. It just feels like something that it's authentic. It's got an authenticity to it, and I do really appreciate that in this movie, and that stands throughout the whole film. Then we have another wonderful scene which I absolutely adore, and I might even enjoy it more than the one in the park, when you feel like there's now starting to be, I feel like, let's call it the breakthrough scene, if you like, the therapy session where you hear about the is it the baseball game that where Robin Williams met his wife,
and he says to his friends, "I'm sorry, I've got to see about a girl." Is that one?
Yeah. Where obviously the line is delivered, and you can see Matt Damon as Will Hunting is obviously getting himself excited talking about the game, the baseball game that he loves, and he's getting around, he jumps out of his seat, and he's now swinging an imaginary bat, and
he's engaged.
He's engaged, and he's now engaging with his therapist. That arm has come down here because they've found the level playing field, haven't they? They've found that area, that space where they can both come in as equals. And he tells this story about how he managed to get tickets to this 6th game of the World Series. I mean, that means nothing to me, but clearly sounds like a very important thing. He's gone to this game, and and then he reveals that actually he didn't actually ever make it into the game because he was chatting up this girl in the bar. And then obviously Matt Damon kind of falls about himself, and
can't believe it.
He's flabbergasted, and he's and I love this scene. I think this scene is like I said, I might even enjoy it more than the one in the park, because I just feel like that was that scene, wasn't it, where we've now found that mutual ground, and the idea has been floated at this point that actually all of those things, like you say, his defense mechanism is to show everyone how much of an idiot they are and how he's he rules overall. And actually he's now starting to realize that actually this meaningful relationship, that thing that he's never had before, might actually be the end goal here. It's a real coming of age scene. And I really, really enjoy that scene, and that one really does stand out. And obviously we move on. A brilliant scene is then had on the construction site after they have their row, which
scene.
Yeah, it is a good scene. But just before we get to the construction scene,
you want to talk about their row?
I want to talk about the row because for me this is one of my big critiques of the film. And maybe I've got it wrong, but obviously they're laying in bed, everything's really nice. They're smooching and all that kind of paper.
Oh my God.
And then all of a sudden,
carry on.
And then all of a sudden, she's straight the idea that she wants him to come to California with her because she's going to school or something.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, that's right.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they have this blazing row, and they break up, all within the space of about 4.5 minutes. And nothing wrong with the scene, nothing wrong with the way it was acted, or even the content. But for me, it just felt like where's that? That's come out of nowhere. 1 minute it's all lovely, and the next thing you know, he's oh Christ, he's so angry, and he's throwing his hand at the wall, and it's all rather scary. So. And then for me, I just, where does that come from? It just, we've gone from 0 to 100 in no time at all. And for me, it felt like it was an out of nowhere kind of scene.
I think that scene's so good.
Oh, is it though?
Yeah, I just think it is. I mean, apart from this, quickly, I want to touch on the fact that you just started singing. You sound like Long Legs. But I just think that scene is so good. Like, he's had so much change in his life, and he's never had stability. And regardless of whether he's happy in the environment he's now found himself in, he has created stability. And to then be told that he's upping and outing of stability into the unknown with someone that he is still not connecting with because he's got all these walls up, and he's got these anger issues, definitely ADHD. Those things will make him explode randomly. And I just think that scene is so, I don't know, powerful, because it's showing that, all the stuff that he's telling this psychiatrist in bits and the stuff that we're piecing together, he has just shown us in a single scene, and how quickly it can push someone away. So hence why he is where he is. So I really do genuinely like that scene. And I think that scene sets up some amazing scenes afterwards. So I think that scene, I get what you're saying. Maybe it's not so much the end goal of that scene, but maybe just how it started. But as someone that has ADHD and knowing how it can just be 1 minute this and 1 minute that, if my charger isn't charging my phone in 0.01 seconds of putting it in, then that's it. It's I've thrown it at the wall or something. I totally get how the smallest things can make someone explode. But certainly where, in Boston to California and up in his life probably isn't quite the smallest thing.
No, I suppose.
So no, I me personally, I mean, we'll touch on it, in a minute. A scene that I'm not the massive fan of, but this scene, I really, really do like.
And I get what you're saying, and I think I can appreciate that. How I'm not sure if it's him turning on the sixpence and going from 0 to 100 mile per hour that I have an issue with. But for me, maybe there was just I guess. For me, I just felt like that scene wasn't allowed to settle at any point. 1 minute they're sitting there talking about everything, and it's all okay, and the next thing they're up, up in each other's faces, and it's all kind of gone. And I just felt like there wasn't a lot of letting things breathe.
So isn't that life? When does anybody have the moment where there's a sort of fourth wall break or a monologue or a really nice shot, like in La La Land, a movie that me and you love? If something like that happens, they change the colors, they really home in on the face of the character to get the emotions out, the music, everything. But this movie isn't a highly stylized film. It is a real film, and we're both in relationships, we've had arguments, we've had things happen in our life, and sometimes it can just go from 0 to 100, and then you kind of sit there and think, what just happened?
Yeah, well, yeah. So, I mean, I have been told off.
And I get it's a movie, but like we keep saying, this movie has done so well at keeping things real. I mean, look, maybe this hasn't happened to you, but certainly these sort of interactions in my past relationships have definitely happened with me, where it can go from 0 to 100 real quick, and then you kind of sit back and think, well, how did we just get to that?
Yeah. I get. Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. Perhaps I haven't watched that scene in the right light then, but
no, but even again, it could just be like what I was saying before. Is this could just be a happy accident? It might not be so much the writing of the writers or the directing of the director. It could just be just a happy accident that resonates with me, but not with other people. Do you know what I mean? So it might not be a subtle thing from the director or the writers. It could literally just be a happy accident. But that's my take from it, and it's why I don't really have so much of an issue with that scene. But at the end of the day, it's your opinion.
Yeah. Well, and it sets up nicely for the scene that we're going to come on to, which is on the construction site between Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's characters. And this is for me, a really powerful emotional scene where we have, because up to this point, Ben Affleck is he's the kind of lager lout best mate. Clearly, kind of sees that, with life he's probably about as good as it's going to get for him. He's kind of accepted his lot, and he's just looking out to have a good time when and where he can. And at this point is you then realize that actually he sees more than perhaps he lets on. He sees more than people perhaps give him credit for. And for me, it's a really powerful scene where he talks about, this is as good as it gets for me, but you could do so much more, and what I think, he says a line which I love, and everyone's told in life about how you need to do things, not for this person, not for that person, but for you. You need to do it for you. But he goes on to say, you wouldn't just be letting yourself down, you'll be letting me down if you don't do something more with your life. Because I'm never going to get to do that. And I thought that I love this scene. I think this is really, really good stuff. It gives so much development to Ben Affleck's character.
Yeah,
you suddenly realize that he sees so much more than he would be perceptive. He isn't just this boorish kind of character who
comic relief.
Yeah, he was comic relief.
Yeah, you realize that he's not just this best mate. He's a best mate that's very self-aware of how much potential his mate has. And yeah, no, it is a lovely scene. And I think sometimes in your own personal life you can resonate with certain scenes or things in movies, and that amplifies it because you can understand it and have an emotional tie to that. And with this, I think of what we're doing right now on the podcast is we feel like we can offer something here, talking to people. And we don't just owe it to ourselves, we owe it to each other, we owe it to other people that we can potentially do this.
Yeah.
My dad always says that I should have done something in talking in movies. So, it's kind of similar. And I just think it feels, again, just tying into it, it feels real. And why this is like a top 3 scene. And this is one of the few scenes where I like Ben Affleck because he's not my favorite actor. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's very monotone, one note at times. But like you said, I think he understood the assignment here, and he is just so good in this movie. And this one scene, he definitely steals it from Matt Damon. And any scene that Matt Damon is in that doesn't involve Robin Williams, he eats up the screen. But this one particular scene, Ben Affleck, for me, dominates it. I know he has the cooler lines, but I just mean in general how emotive he is in his face and his body language. I just think it's a really, really lovely scene.
Yeah, it is. And I've been sat here with a big smile on my face, much like you were earlier on, because this scene for me was really relatable. Because I remember I've been sat here having conversations with you when I've kind of told you how I feel you could do so much more with your life, how I feel like you've got all the potential in the world to get anywhere you want to be. And, we've had those deep conversations, in our own personal lives, haven't we? Where we've both been in the Ben Affleck role, we've both been in the Matt Damon role in those conversations that we've had. And I feel like lots of people have had those conversations, and it's a lovely mirror into a lot of people's own lives. It's a great scene, absolutely wonderful piece of cinema, that scene.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it's just so nice when I think something that's seen, and this is why this movie is so good and it's so real, but also at the same time, obviously, it is a movie. Is it so inspiring because he does then do something with his life? He does the thing he wants to do, and you can look at it. And I remember watching this and watching it recently. Every time I watch this, certain movies do this, and this is one of the few movies where before we did this, I'm like, right, I need to talk to you about doing this,
Mhm.
because it just gets me inspired. It gets me to think, well, what he's saying is exactly right, and then it holds more weight hearing it from, I guess, someone that has made it and in a movie. And you think, well, this is what I've been told anyway. I need to do this, and I just think it's such a lovely message. And like I said, again, in terms of the movie that we're talking about, it just really hits home that this film is just, it feels so real, it's so natural, it feels effortless at times. It doesn't even feel acted, it just feels real.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. Do you know what? You've nailed it. It doesn't feel acted in places, does it? You almost feel like you could be watching, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon actually just having a chat,
Yeah, absolutely.
as if the cameras weren't rolling.
There's no big set pieces, there's not these, I know it's something you've watched. Joker is obviously, it doesn't have the CGI and the larger than life space battles, but what it does have is certain shots, certain cinematography. He's an unreliable narrator, so it has things that are still not quite fundamentally real. But with this, it just feels like a lot of the time it's just Matt Damon and Robin Williams having a conversation about life and how one perceives it differently to another, and how one's trying, and it just feels so real and just feels like you're watching someone have a conversation. I mean, there's only one scene that we'll touch on in a bit that definitely isn't this, but I just think it's such a lovely film, and yeah, it seems like what we're talking about now just is just amazing. Like I said, it just doesn't feel acted, it just feels effortless on their part. And obviously when it feels effortless and doesn't feel acted, you kind of lose yourself and forget that it's a movie, and that's when you really start to invest in the characters and the story and just watch it without knowing that there's actually someone behind the camera and they're reading off a script. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And from that point onwards, we kind of carry on this tour de force of kind of emotional scenes, because then we get the final therapy session with Robin Williams and Matt Damon, where you both hear firsthand some of the harrowing accounts of the abuse they both suffered as children. Another level playing field where they can come together as equals. And then at that point the armor finally comes completely down. And Robin Williams keeps telling him it's not his fault over and over again, and
Yep.
I thought Matt Damon acted this so brilliantly, because the first time he kind of scoffs and laughs and sort of says, "Yeah, I know," really casually, and then he says again, "No, I know," really casually, he kind of scoffs and laughs, and then you could see in his face, it's almost like his face almost hardens. It's like you can physically see his face kind of contort, and then it all comes out, and then they have this hug, and then I unashamedly will have to say, I mean, not only were there a couple of tears in my eyes, I mean, big teardrops. I mean, these were big uns.
I don't care. I do not believe if anyone's actually sat there and watched this all the way through. I don't think there's anybody that can say they didn't cry at that scene. I'll say that I've cried. I mean, I can't remember a time where I've watched it where I haven't teared up, and I watched it, at least 6 or 7 times. And I mean, I'm not even ashamed to say it is just such a. But it's not just sad. It's almost, even from my part, relief that he's finally put down those barriers. And the thing I love so much is when he's like, don't say that, don't do that. It's almost like he can't hear it. Do you know what I mean? That it's not his fault, because he's been beating himself up and he's got down these barriers. And I think, obviously, like you said, the physical acting side is, and how he's capturing the emotion in his face is amazing. But just when he's saying don't say that, don't do that, I just think that's so. And I remember I'll watch it. It's a bit like with Forrest Gump. I'll watch certain scenes and be like, right, you're not going to cry this time, and then I hear him say, don't say that. I've got a lump in my throat. I'm a mess. I'm getting the tissues. It's such a beautiful scene, and the thing that makes it so much better is throughout the entire runtime, Matt Damon and especially Robin Williams are just giving such gorgeous performances, such heartfelt performances, such natural performances, that it all just feels so earned. And there's certain movies where you cry and you think you're a bit of a goof, or you think, what am I crying at? But with this, it just, you feel like, well, I should be crying. You're unashamedly crying, because it is just such a beautiful scene.
No, it really is, and it's like I said, you know, these were big tears. These were
Hmm.
proper tears. These was, and so you know, so we have that, and then and obviously, you know, this is his birthday. He gets the car, which is a nice thing. Um, and then as you see him driving, before we get to the very final scene, we then have obviously Ben Affleck, who had mentioned how he would love to one day, you know, have his routine broken of going to pick him up before they go to a bar.
Hmm.
Find that obviously he's packed his bag and has gone to go and live this incredible life that he's absolutely going to have. And see, now this scene did breathe. This scene did actually get to breathe because we know that Matt Damon's gone,
Hmm.
and Ben Affleck knows pretty much. I feel when he knocks the door a couple of times that he has gone.
Yeah, that he's gone. Yeah, and he looks through the window, doesn't he? And all
Uh,
this stuff gone. I think there's only like a chair, or there's like one
yeah,
singular item left in there.
yeah. But he doesn't rush that bit. He doesn't even rush the smile. You know, he knocks the door a few times and he goes to look through the window, then he looks back, look back, and then he kind of stands there and he lets everything breathe. He
Hmm.
lets it, you know, he gives you that moment, and then a smile kind of breaks out, and then his face goes back serious again, and then the smile breaks out again. That is quality. That I love. That for me was just really really well done, because he could have rushed through the important notes of that, but I actually felt like that. I felt like that scene did breathe, and I feel like that
Yeah,
scene did it was done really
and
well.
and the thing I love about that is because it's something you usually get in movies, and I suppose an expectation in life is if someone's telling you you should do something, you can do this, you can do this. It almost feels like, well, all the stuff in between of when you make the decision to do it and you put in all the hard work to do it,
Hmm.
it's not appreciated until you've done it. And it
Hmm.
does that in movies. Whereas with this, it means the world to him that he's just not in that house anymore. He doesn't know
Yeah.
where he's gone. He doesn't know what he's doing. But
Hmm.
what he knows is that he's making a go of something that he
Yeah.
genuinely wants to do, and that's so lovely. Like again, and I can link in that to this. We're finally doing this now, where we get to talk about this, and we talk about this stuff anyway. But the idea of there's someone right now listening to us talk about this is so lovely, and the idea of especially my dad listening to this, who's been their biggest champion of me always doing something in film, and you um, and for him to listen to this now and know that I'm trying to do something in it, for me, I would almost hope that he has the same payoff and reaction, even though I haven't got, all the money and the red carpets and all those stuff that we dream of one day. But the fact that I'm doing it and I'm talking about it, do you know what I mean? I think sometimes just to know someone's took that leap is almost enough to say, well, they're trying now. Do you know if that makes sense? And I just think, and again, I know it's a theme here, but that this makes it so real and
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah. So relatable. Relatable is absolutely right. That is the thing. And then right at the end, we obviously get this wonderful final scene. I was actually really hoping that we were going to get just one more interaction between the pair of them, because I didn't know if they were going to, I didn't know if they were going to go back to the well again for this. And even though they don't physically interact, as in, you know, literally, you know, to have a conversation, he obviously pops this letter in to Robin Williams' postbox and then drives off. And then obviously Robin Williams reads it, and then one of probably my favorite line from the whole film, where he references that he stole his line. Absolutely brilliant. Um, then the credits roll, and so you know that final scene is an absolutely. I just love it. I love the line. The line that it might be my favorite line from the whole film. Right at the end there. One thing we haven't even spoken about is how the character of Stellan Skarsgård is almost like this kind of, you know, he floats in and out throughout the entire film, right from the
Yeah.
start right the way through to the end. Um, and I actually think one of the best, I tell you who does have chemistry on screen and absolutely works is him and Robin Williams, by the way, and their characters. You know, I think they've got a great arc. I actually think they have a really, really good character arc in this film. You kind of see two sides of a different coin. You know, both incredibly talented. One who pursued the career, one who pursued the love life. One who's got a bit of money and a bit of fame and a bit of prestige, and the other one who hasn't. Yet you almost feel like the one who has achieved, you know, the stuff that you can write down on paper is actually the one who's trying to prove it to himself. still by proving it and being loud and being a bit of a tosser to everybody. It's almost like that's his way of trying to prove to himself that he did do the right thing, because clearly he doesn't feel he did. Insecurities of people who are otherwise brilliant. Talk about something you can relate to in the real world. How many people have we met who fit that brief of somebody who from the outside looks like they've all got it going on and they've all got it made, yet are still battling their own insecurities. So
100%.
Really well written character.
Yeah, and with his character, by the way, you can edit it here. I need a piss so badly. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just gonna say with him again and then carry on. Yeah, so with his character, 100% like what you're saying, and I think it's like he doesn't have no one to share these things with. He's reached the tippity top in his field as he feels, and that's the thing, it's the self-acceptance, because he's telling other people, respect me, because he hasn't got no one to share it with. Whereas Robin Williams has shared a life with someone that was his life partner, his soulmate, and that is more than enough for him. It's like such a lovely scene that he says that he doesn't regret missing the baseball game, and he also doesn't regret all the years he spent with her, the years that she wasn't well, and he doesn't regret it at all. Whereas I'm sure that, and what they're trying to show you is Stellan regrets pushing his best mate away, pushing people away. And it's like, and a scene I love so much, and I think it's not so, I perceive it as not so much Stellan trying to put down Robin Williams, but it's almost him showing that he really doesn't care. As he keeps saying, and he mentions it at one point when I think he's laying it on the sofa in his room, he's obviously been talking to Will Hunting in, he's like, you can have the award if that's what you want. And he says that a few times, and it's like, well, do you know what I mean? He doesn't care about the item. Like you say in wrestling, when I couldn't understand before about the belts, is the belts is just an item. It's just an object. It's the meaning behind it. His is just an item. It doesn't mean nothing. He's got the plaudits, but he has no one to share it with. So it's almost it's just something collecting dust. It's the same as an Oscar. If no one knew anything about movies and someone had an Oscar, it's just a gold statue of a person. It doesn't mean nothing. It's the things that are with it that carry weight. And I think that's so powerful to his character. And I almost think that what you actually see throughout the film is he's more jealous of Robin Williams than Robin Williams is jealous of him.
100%. Yeah.
And I just think, and again, that's just such beautiful storytelling and so real, because at the end of the day, a person that finds love in life is a very lucky person indeed. And I think that's so lovely.
But I think we've all met someone like that, haven't we? We've all met that person who, wants to bludgeon us to death with their achievements because they're clearly covering up shortcomings that they can't deal with. We have all met that person. So you can absolutely see that. It is great storytelling. And then obviously we get the most Hollywood ending ever of him driving to LA. Oh, I say LA, might not be LA, it might be somewhere else in California,
isn't it? But it is Hollywood, but it's so good.
Yeah,
it's just watching the car drive off as the credits roll. It's just so hopeful and lovely, and I know it is a technically Hollywood ending with the line, but I think because the line is so earned, and his reaction to the note, and just the ending itself, and they don't have that big Hollywood reunion where they're at Madison Square Garden, it's Christmas, and then they see him at the end of it and they run and they have their big moment and everyone around is watching it. I think it still feels real, and it still and that's why the film overall leaves you feeling warm, because it's such a hopeful movie. And I think people that maybe feel stuck in life or I just think this movie is something they should just watch, because I don't know, they can relate to it, and then it might give them some confidence after it, because I just think it's such a beautiful film. It really is.
Yeah, no, it really is. Yeah, so that's my uneducated movie person, I wouldn't say fan yet, take on Good Will Hunting. For me, I would give it a solid I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10 every day of the week. And if I was
Not a
feeling
10.
well,
Is there any movie you give a 10 out of 10? Like where would you rank this in terms of movies you have personally watched?
so for me, it slots into my top 5.
Hmm.
It's a film that I'm going to go back and watch again and again because I feel like it's something that I will watch and will just plaster a smile over my face.
Hmm.
But I am British. I can't give something 10 out of 10. You know, we don't do 10 out of 10. You know, something
What does
has
that
to.
even mean?
Well, no, because you know, if you
I'm English, and I've got on my letterbox, I've got like 12 movies that are 10s.
yeah, but I mean,
All right, well, so you've given it a 9 out of 10. Where does it fare in your movie? So you giving it now? Is it currently? I mean, look, recency bias. It doesn't matter. We're talking the here and now.
yeah,
Is it your number one? Is it number two? Number three? For you, where does this movie fare in the movies you have currently watched?
it's probably my number 2. It for me, it doesn't top La La Land, which is my favorite.
Yeah.
But I would say it's a number 2 at the minute, and like you said, maybe that's because it's fresh in my mind at the minute. But
Yeah.
it's such
So
a.
do you give La La Land a 9 then?
I'd give it a 9 and 9.5.
We're doing, Jesus, we're even doing points because we.
Yeah, well, because you can't give something a 10 if
So
if you.
what would make? I suppose this could be. I'm not going to talk about this now. This should be something for another thing of what would make La La Land a perfect movie, because I would love to hear your takes on this.
Yeah,
but
well,
sticking to Good Will Hunting for now.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I feel like because I've kind of spoke with you. I don't know if there's a great deal that I can speak on. I mean, a few things you haven't mentioned is Casey Affleck, who is in it. Obviously, as the film goes on, his character's in it less and less and less, and to a point where he isn't at all until that scene with Ben Affleck, and then he's just in the car. And I think he has one line, but I think he's amazing in it. His acting is just phenomenal. How he plays this naive young misfit.
Yeah, stand up.
He eats up every bit of screen time that he's in. It's just almost like you can't help it, but your eyes just home in on him, and you just want to watch what he's offering.
Yeah.
Such an incredible actor.
Well, I said to you, didn't I? I want to go and watch now. Every movie that Casey Affleck's ever been in, just because he's so watchable. I just think I think he's a generational actor. I know that might be high praise indeed, but I don't care. I will die on that hill. I think he's brilliant.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I know Ben Affleck's a bigger name, but I think Casey Affleck's in a different league to his older brother in terms of acting. But yeah, so Casey Affleck's just incredible. Robin Williams, I mean, he's just ridiculous. So good. And yeah, I think it makes me more sad to think now that in real life that he isn't here, and the stuff he was going through, because having watched him as a kid in comedies and then watching this when I was quite young, he just seemed like someone that had the answers, was so hopeful, really found all the beauty in life. And obviously that wasn't the case. I think that's even more of a tragedy that he's put so many smiles on our faces and on millions of people's faces, but there wasn't someone out there to do it for himself. But just a beautiful actor, and such a beautiful piece of acting here and storytelling. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, they've admitted that when they were writing this, they constantly had outside sources that were sort of molding and changing the script, because there was just stuff that because they were so young, there was stuff they didn't know that they needed to add, or stuff that would make the movie better. And Robin Williams is one of them. I mean, you said one of your favorite line is when he said, son of a stole my line, and that was improvised. He'd done a bunch of scenes and kept improvising them, and then Matt Damon said in the interview I watched once that he was behind the camera with Gus Van Sant, and he turned to him and said, "That's the one. That's the one we absolutely have to do." I mean, that's just perfect. The scene where he's talking about the imperfections, and that's the good stuff, and he talks about his wife, which she fired in her sleep, and she said, "Was that you?" and the dog and all that. Again, that was all improvised. Matt Damon's laugh there is real, because obviously Robin Williams is just so funny, and just how he's able to do these subtle things. And obviously that scene in the park when he's talking about, and I feel like especially people of my age, we can do this, and I do this. Is like I can put something down, having never experienced it, or I can, I still to this day I've never been on holiday and things like that, and I can judge a place without going there. And that's what he's trying to say is, it's easy to be judgmental, but it's harder to go out and experience it. And I just think that's such a powerful message, and I can't imagine anyone else now but Robin Williams giving those hard-hitting truths in life than him. And I just think his performance, and this is something that maybe the reason I give this movie a high 8, low 9, is I think if you take him out of the movie, not the character, but if you take him, the actor, out of the movie and replace him with any other actor at that time, the movie has so many more shortcomings. The scenes have so many more shortcomings. I think it was just meant to be and perfect that they got Robin Williams for that role.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I want to touch on, and sadly I feel like I brought 2 negatives towards the end, so I'll think of something else to just, because I do love this movie so much, is that bar scene. Before we even get to after the bar scene where he talks about fruit, is in the bar, he's trying to show off to the girl, oh, that's cool, but it feels very Disney Channel-esque in the way it was executed. They were really it felt like the director and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were really trying to show you how cool Will Hunting is and how he uses his knowledge, maybe not for the best reasons, and how he can put down this guy that's really smart and really cool. But the letdowns here is we know that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck wrote it, so it kind of feels more of like, how do I make myself look really cool for this scene? And it also, they probably hired the worst actor ever to play the guy who's trying to put down. That I feel like I could have probably put this guy down, not really being any good at maths at all. And that really, really let the scene down. And then that kind of was just a weird setup for him and the love interest, Minnie Driver, obviously Skylar, to get together. It kind of felt more like kind of a bit forced, like what they do in Disney channels, rather than natural.
It was a bit clumsy, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that felt more Hollywood than the ending, to be honest, because obviously the ending of the movie felt earned. It was set up. It had a great end line from Robin Williams, whereas with this, it just felt really sort of, look at us, we can write cool characters, and look how cool I am. And then the apple scene. Now I know it's cool. It's a scene that a lot of people quote. It's it's a cool scene. But I just think having had that scene to then go to this scene where it's really Hollywood, and like, if that was in real life and I just went up to a window and asked someone if they like apples, I don't know if I would just get a generic, yeah. I feel like I might get like, excuse me, what on earth? Or like, no, I'm more of a mangoes guy. I don't know if I would just get a straight up yes. So I just feel like, again, it was more of a statement from Matt and Ben and the director to say, well, look how cool this guy is. He's from Boston. He's a bit edgy. And I don't know. It kind of just took me out. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's like a 2-minute scene. But I just think, and look, I think maybe if they'd hired a better actor to play the guy that gets schooled, then potentially it could be just a scene that isn't my favorite, but it's not a bad scene. But because they got the worst actor to ever act ever, I think it does sadly become a bad scene. And also, I mean, the guy's got a ponytail. It's just like they couldn't have made it any more obvious that this guy is probably a bit of an idiot.
Yeah, and it's a shame that, like you say, that as we're rounding this off, that we've rather ended on a negative, but we can definitely turn it back around. But yes, I mean, the bar scene was clumsy, and it was so random. It just kind of came out of nowhere, and you kind of had this hapless idiot who I actually assumed at one point maybe he was dating one of the girls that was there, but it doesn't appear to be. It appears to have turned up out of nowhere to do God only knows what. But it wasn't very good. But unlike you, I how would you like them apples? I quite like it. Yeah, I quite like it. But kind of looping back around to what you said when you were talking about Robin Williams' delivery for some of those lines, explaining how Matt Damon, as Will Hunting, hasn't experienced those things, so the way he speaks with such certainty, is kind of off. I once heard this great saying, which is, the only people who are ever certain of anything are people who know everything about a subject and people who know nothing at all. And that kind of fits exactly that character dynamic right there, doesn't it? Robin
Yep.
Williams, who has lived the life, who knows it all, with Matt Damon, who can give off this impression of someone who's really clued in, but unfortunately, when it comes to the real life, knows nothing. And yeah, I think that's a great.
Yeah, no, just again, I could talk forever about. I'm happy to go over it all again, just how good Robin Williams is. I think something that just makes it so special with him, and when I really have, in movies I've watched, standout acting performance, one of my favorites, because he's definitely up there, probably even top 10, is I can see another person doing the Matt Damon role and doing it quite well. Even DiCaprio, like you said, I thought
Leo definitely
really, really well.
Yeah.
But I genuinely cannot imagine another actor doing Robin Williams as well. I can imagine someone doing it well and acting very well, but having the heart, the emotion, the charismatic side, but the deep emotional side, and just how he carries himself and how he speaks, and just everything. I sit here right now and just think that role was meant for him, and it's just fate that he got the role, and deservedly so won the Oscar. And that's when you know that you've got a really special performance on your hands, when it just makes sense and there's no one else. You can think of really good roles. Like for instance, like we've said about La La Land, Ryan Gosling, there is probably someone else out there that could give those emotions. Maybe not as good, but to some level. But for me, Robin Williams, there is no one out there that could do it the way he done it and get these messages across to the emotional weight and depth that he did.
Yeah, no, he was standout for me. He was just he was the standout. He was the star, and that's the thing. When I think of the movie, I can see I can just picture Robin Williams and in the film, his character, the smile and everything, and that's perfect. Perfect casting.
100%. If you take that movie out and you put Denzel Washington in the role, who's someone that can do the emotional sort of lectures very well, I feel like the movie's a 7. And it's still a very good movie, and people would love it. And I would say that it's a great movie, but for it to be a really truly special piece of filmmaking and one that will resonate with people and stand with them for a long time and make their lists of top 10s and things, then I think Robin Williams is so crucial to that. And this is why for me the movie isn't perfect, because it's so reliant on one factor. When a movie like La La Land has so many amazing and perfect factors that all combine into one, then I think that's when I can really give films like 10s and 9s. But take nothing away from this movie. It's one of the most real hard-hitting movies I've ever watched, one of the best performances, and overall just an amazing piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, it really is. And I think if somebody hasn't seen it, I would definitely compel them to go and watch it. And if people have seen it,
absolutely,
go and watch it again.
Yeah, because if anyone listening to this and that maybe hasn't picked up on certain things, and I think another truly amazing thing about this film is I will go and watch it once I've done more things in my life, been on a couple of holidays, had kids, experienced other things, because I think it's something that in any walk of life, and no matter where you watch it from any age you're in, I think there's something different you'll get out of it each time, because it's such a lived-in movie, and it will resonate with different parts and different stages of your life. So yeah, if there's anyone that's, like you said, hasn't watched it, or even more so, to be honest, has watched it at a younger age and just had time to sit with it, I think they'll definitely, surely get something else out of it. I mean, I've watched it 6 times now, and definitely 2 to 3 of those times that I watched it having a large space between it, and obviously had a lot of growing up. There's definitely different things I've got out of it, and I look forward to getting more out of it the older I get.
Yeah, absolutely. Suitable for all stages in that film. So yeah, I mean, Good Will Hunting, great film. I would love to see, though, in the comments, I'd love to get some feedback. Are there films that you want us to talk about? I want suggestions for movies that we need to deep dive. I want to hear the movies that have had an emotional effect on you. I want to hear movies that you go to watch when you want cheering up. Movies when you're feeling down that you want to watch. Movies that you watched for the first time ever and blew your mind. I want,
or even movies that you hate.
Or even movies that you hate. I want to deep dive them all, because I haven't watched a lot of movies. And I want to be able to do this again. I want to be able to pick another movie which I've seen for the first time, talk about it and deep dive, and this is what we want. So
and I've seen a lot of movies, but I just you know, even if someone disagrees with me, I would just love to sit there for however long and just talk about a movie, even if it's a Fast and Furious or anything. But yeah, definitely get in the comments something you'd like to see us talk about next. I mean, I know at some point soon we're definitely going to be talking about the Jokers, because I have a lot to say about even the second one that could be quite controversial. So definitely stay tuned for that. But yeah, anything you guys think, make sure to definitely put it in the comments and like and subscribe, and yeah, just get it out there, because this is what we want to do. We want to talk and we want to hear from you.
Yeah, we do. And with that, we'll see you at the next one.